And so I know when we were talking earlier about IDEs, and again your experience with NetBeams, and again there's a lot of out there, and we've just talked about Java, but also there's IDEs for C, C++, the whole nine yards.
Hmm.
Now, people who are usually hardcore programmers, they kind of like to go for the make files. That's the true way of programming. You're not a programmer until you've written your own make file. At least that's what I've been told.
Yeah.
And I said, well, that's great. And Makefile is great. One mistake that I made, and it was a pretty noob mistake at the time, was Makefiles are very, very picky with how you format them. And whenever you find instructions with Makefiles, they specifically say at the very beginning, tab over your parameters list. And they say, don't add five spaces, add a tab. So guess what I did, being the coder who says it's all or nothing, I'm going for it. Well, I added the five spaces, not the tab.
Nice.
And it
Nice.
just wouldn't compile. And I'm going to the boards, why won't this compile? It looks right. I'm looking at the example, it looks the same.
Hmm.
And then I finally, okay, I'm going from scratch. And then it worked. And I'm saying, well, what's different? Well, turns out it was that tab. Spaces do not equal tab. So that's a Makefile. The best way of getting started with Makefiles, that's a really hard one. I would say just do a Google search for it. Look at a
Yeah.
lot of examples. Unfortunately, it's not one of those things that's very easy, at least from my perspective, just to comprehend right off the bat. I've had to look at quite a few pieces of code, and sometimes I'm still not 100% familiar with it, but I've gotten enough of it to work.
Yeah.
So if you can grab examples, that's great. And again, the reason why you go for a Makefile is that way you don't have to constantly type out all the compile parameters and functions on the command line every single time. It's just in one file. And
Yeah.
make
If
also
any of you have ever done command line compiling, um, when you first start out with the basic, it's just GCC dash O blah blah blah, and it's about this long, and your terminal is about this long. No problem. But where makefiles come into handy, or even if you're a GUI person, just
mhm,
straight up cover all IDE control. It can get very complicated, and really make files are more like a scripting language, but
exactly.
they're complicated,
Yep.
and they have a huge amount of flexibility, which makes them wonderful if used properly.
Yep. Again, you want to include a whole bunch of different libraries and then classes and binary and other people have given you. That's where
Yeah,
you put it in the makefile. It
yeah,
also, kind of speeds things up because if you do everything on the command line, it compiles everything every single time. A makefile keeps track of changes, so it only compiles what has changed.
yeah.
So that's the real, power there. Another IDE that I played around with very early on when I was working with the Allegro library, which is a video game library, open source, I was
Mm-hmm.
using Kdevelop. And again, this was during my KDE days. This is a great IDE for the Linux platform. It incorporates Kedit, just their basic text editor, and then just puts a nice skin around it in functions, so a whole debugging terminal. It keeps track of classes for you, so it auto fills. And if there's anybody from like the Windows side who's used Visual Studio, particularly Visual Studio C++, then the way you add libraries to be compiled with your code is very similar in Kdevelop as it is in Visual Studio. That's the nice thing. You just go to the project properties, there's a little tab that says libraries to compile, and then you just type out the library that you want to include,
Mm-hmm.
and it's all good.
Very nice.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't think I've done any actual Windows compiling in a very long time.
Mm-hmm.
I've pulled the Express versions off the internet.
Oh,
Which, if you
yes.
don't know, any of you want to do Windows coding, Microsoft has the Express versions of their IDEs available. I don't. They're missing something from the full versions, but for the average person, it's not that big a deal.
Yep,
Um,
you don't miss much. I just downloaded the latest Visual Basic Express 10,
mhm.
2010, and I think something a lot it said that you couldn't do is you couldn't program with the Express versions. You couldn't program Windows services.
Oh,
Some of the help functions weren't available. Some of the deeper level codes and libraries weren't available. But doing a little bit more research on that, people who are familiar with working with Visual Studio and Visual Studio Express, they said that there are very easy workarounds. So it's not like you download the Express and you're locked out to these particular functions. There are ways of still getting them.
yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, if you're from the Windows world, yeah, highly recommend it. Go for the Express. They give you a lot. In fact, when I program for the Windows platform, I come from a VB background. Say what you might about VB. Actually, I think to be honest, I really do believe it's a great environment to program. For rapid prototyping, you need a GUI. It works well. And then
Oh,
really,
I see. I miss the days of VB6 when you could just throw it together and call it good.
yeah. And then if
Those
you
were,
really think about it, the way Microsoft has done it, the whole Visual Studio platform is .NET anyway. So
yeah.
whether it's VB or VC or C Sharp, I should say, or Java, you're all calling the same .NET libraries. There's really almost no difference. I mean, I can look at C Sharp code and instantly translate to VB .NET code.
Hmm.
I mean, it's that easy. And then you do a little bit of research. I mean, there's all these flame wars that go up. Which one's better? Which one compiles faster? And I found a couple of sites that say, hey, as long as you program the code properly, that you don't always rely on the garbage collector. Believe me, garbage collectors make it nice, so that way you don't have to unload memory every single time.
Yeah.
But if you code properly, you load and you unload memory, then after compile, your C code and your VB code, when it's compiled to machine code, is almost identical. So again, I think to give credit where credit is due, Windows, I think, did a very good job with the .NET framework in making it pretty much universal across all those code types.
Okay. Huh. I did not know that. That's fascinating.
Yeah. Learn
Every now
something.
and then Microsoft comes up with something good.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I'm just waiting until I get my hands on the new Kinect and plug that into OpenCV. It's going
Ooh,
onto my Linux box.
yeah. The hacking on that went ape after that came out. I
Oh,
saw
yeah.
that. I thought that was funny.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
speaking of Kinect, the Kinect, it's now our time for our pick of the show.
Okay.
I've got mine. Do you have yours?
Go for it.
Okay. Well, mine is, again, for the Android phone, and it is Sound Meter. And I like this particular program because it just measures the decibel levels using the microphone on the phone. And this was particularly cool to use because I was walking through the Westfield Mall in downtown San Francisco, going through the stores. Most of the places, including the food court, the decibel level was somewhere around 60 decibels, which is normal conversation level listening. You're not going to go deaf by it by any means. Granted, it's slightly stressful. But then I would go into a couple of stores and the music would just be cranked up so loud. And I'm thinking, the people who work here must be going deaf. So I fired up Sound Meter to see if that was true. And sure enough, the music was peaking around 75 to 80 decibels. And that's the sound of city traffic right next to the roadway.
Nice.
So I kind of feel sorry for the employees in those stores, but now I know. So I think one of these days I'm going to go up and show them saying, this is really what you're doing to your hearing. Cherish it.
Nice. Well, my app of the week is so for those people who feel the frustration of or are limited to only one computer to work with, hopefully you've got a powerful enough one. A alternate solution for those who don't know is running a virtual machine. So let's say you've got a Linux box, or you've got a Windows box, or you've got a Mac box, and especially in the Macintosh's case, you can't afford Parallels for some reason. I think the latest version is $70 right now, but there's an alternative solution, and it's called VirtualBox. It's www.virtualbox.org, exactly how you think it would be spelled. It's a cross-platform, not Java-based, uh, virtual machine that is actually very easy to set up. I think most common Linux distributions come with it already set up in the repository.
Uh-huh.
If no, actually, I lied. They've got it there, and it just bumps out a warning. You actually have to go to the VirtualBox website and
Okay.
um, download their package in
Mm-hmm.
order to install it. But like I said, it's cross-platform. Due to licensing, it doesn't do OS X on anything else except OS X, but everyone's familiar with that problem.
Yep.
And it's as close to Parallels on anything as you can get. And the only reason I compare it to Parallels is
Mm-hmm.
I have been doing a lot of. I've had to work with it constantly at work, and
Uh-huh.
it's been a pain in the butt, but
Yeah.
it's better than running two computers. So
Yeah. So
yes, virtualbox.org.
okay, cool. So you're saying as long as I have a Mac running OS X, I can
Mm-hmm.
run three different operating systems on one machine,
Yeah, yeah.
side by side?
You can even run OS X Server on it, apparently. Although I would highly discourage running more than one at a time because you are actually trying to run multiple computers, and unless you've got like a terahertz computer and 16 billion gigabytes of RAM, you're gonna be a lot
Shouldn't
of
you just buy a
bytes.
PlayStation 3 for that matter?
Yeah, you may as well, and then and then you can crack it like they've got it and
Yeah.
run. What do they got? They had Yellow Docs or Yellow Dog or BSD on it. I think this
Yeah.
last week.
Yeah.
So yeah, best app I've found. I've especially found it very useful when I wanted to try out a new Linux distribution and didn't really feel like formatting my computer.
Hmm.
It is also, too, for that matter, very handy for testing out boot CDs,
Ah.
if you custom boot CDs, etc. So,
All right.
but I'm sure if you're doing custom boot CDs, you've already got your own setup going. So, we'll leave it at that.
Very good. Very good. Okay. All right. Well, I want to thank everybody for joining us today for another great show. And if
Mhm.
you have any questions for about the show or for me, you can email us at qnc@sharethebytes.com, also known as questions and comments. You can email Corey at.
Cori at sharethebytes.com.
Very good. Okay, so that's it for this show, and we hope to catch everybody later. Hope you enjoy. And again, remember, you can now find us on iTunes. Just type in Share the Bytes.
And I will close my door the next time.
That's okay. We just want to see who walks in next time.
Oh, okay. Maybe I'll get one
Need
of
a
those.
face with the voice.
Maybe I'll get like four cameras, and then I can have like we can have a wide view angle from this end, and really drastic.
Yeah.
Oh man.
All right. Well, we'll talk to you later, Corey. Don't work too hard.
Ah, you too, Ethan. You too.
Bye.
Bye.